Check, check. Okay. Let's go back down to the noir. Yes, okay. All right. Hello, everyone. I was just studying some things about narcissism and the cluster B disorders. And you think you know something. It's like, it's a narcissist. It's a term you've been hearing your whole life. But as I've gotten older, I've heard someone explain it like this, that knowledge is like layers of an onion. You think you know, well, actually, it's more like you think you know, and then you realize you don't know, and then you really realize you don't know, and then you keep realizing that you don't know, and the layers just keep on going. I realized, and you know, this is the case with most things that I've learned in my life, is you think you know what something is, and then you don't know what it is. Epistemic humility. Realizing that you don't know things. Personality types, one of those things. Narcissism, cluster B disorders is another one of those things. I'm talking about this because, you know, we talk about personality types, so I think we should recognize that there's a whole plethora of psychology. It's not just this, and they're mutually exclusive. Everything, like, we're all trying to describe like the same reality, right? We all live in this same reality world, but we have different ways of describing it with different disciplines, and, you know, physics and biology are related, but we don't know exactly how. We can't like machinate the exact like A to B transformation between the two, if that makes sense. No. We need to put things into words and sort of crunch them into like a small space in order to understand them, because we can't understand the full complexity. And, you know, we can like know bits and pieces of things. Like what popped into my head was that INFPs can grasp things at like a very wide level, whereas INTPs like myself, we try to force things into a fully understood system, which you really can't do technically. It's very domain limited. Like, you can only do it within a certain space. But there are benefits to all ways of doing things, usually. So in my case, because I'm really good at systemizing limited sets of information, I can understand the exact nature of a specific system. So like narcissism, for example, when I was younger, I just thought it meant someone who was full of themselves, which is generally, you know, there's some level of understanding there. But then as I got older, I read this book called Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. And at that point, it went from being a consciously understood, like an intellectual idea, to being a more gut level experiential idea, because I saw in my daily life, I was like, oh, that's what that is. That is what that person is doing. That is a narcissistic trait. It can't be anything else, because by definition, and by the deepest levels of what narcissism is, which is the creation of a false identity to cover up like an inner self, that's sort of like a self-protection mechanism where you build yourself on the external world. To put it as simply as I can, basically your identity is built externally by what others think of you and feel about you, and these sorts of things. And you need those to be good. You need people to think positively of you if you're narcissistic. And if someone makes you feel badly about yourself, you kind of lash out and you like try to manipulate them into thinking positively of you. Something like that. And I'm sure I'm just about to embark on this deep study of narcissism and cluster B and identity and how boundaries work and all this stuff. So I'm really curious to see how I'll relate this to typology and Hexaco, also known as the Big Five, plus the new factor they added a few years back. In case you didn't know, there is a sixth personality factor. It's called the honesty factor. They mixed it because then back in the old days, they didn't have as powerful of ways of figuring things out, but I digress. Narcissism. I understood narcissism at a basic level when I was young. And then as I got older, I read this book, Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. And I was like, I see. There's a common element to all personality disorders, and that's emotional dysregulation. Okay. And then recently, like as in, last few weeks, it really started to click like what the false self really is, what the true self really is. And from there, let's jump into typology. So you probably heard of the 4 sides of the mind theory. I think it's from John Beebe. Correct me if I'm wrong. The idea is that what a personality type is you have like a base center identity. So for me, that would be INTP. For C.S. Joseph, that would be ENTP. For Keanu Reeves, that would be INFP, and so on and so forth. Taylor Swift, ESFP. So that is like the base identity. And then supposedly you have like a shadow self, a super ego, and then a subconscious, or whatever the specific terminology actually is. Well, I thought about this and I was like, how does this, I'm literally coming up with this on the spot right now. I have not thought about this until just now. So we'll see what comes out of my brain. I know an ISFJ who has narcissism, and they have all the traits of an ISFJ, they need lots of routine and stability, the insecurity about what others are, what others are up to, criticizing the external environment, like, why is she wearing that? Why is he wearing that? And I know an ENFP who has narcissism, and they don't care what others are wearing. So there's definitely like a pattern here. And so if I had to look at like what side of their minds do they spend their time in, as in, if you get stressed, you may flip into a different side of your mind, or if you're aspiring to be your best self or self-actualize or whatever, you may develop different parts of your identity. And I think part of what a personality type is the way that you build your identity. I think like I build my identity on rigid systems of understanding, because your identity is just what you understand to be true or what you believe about the world. Truth in this case denotes that you have a rigid understanding, whereas beliefs indicate that you have more of a free FI style understanding, if that makes sense. Like INFPs, they have like a depth and width of understanding because they go beyond systems in a way that I don't grasp, or I can with practice, but I mostly build my identity around a hard set of rules and facts that I've verified to be true for myself, something like that. And whether that's true is debatable because, I've put a lot of time and thought into developing how I approach the world so that I can be, the best, not the best, just so that I can feel better, honestly, feel as good as I can sustainably over the course of my entire life, and to make others feel good sustainably over the course of their entire life, something like that. But I lost my train of thought. I was talking about narcissism. I was dancing on the totem pole with my friend, and I'll tell you a little secret. We had fun. Can't have fun, guys. It's a crime. But no, really. Talking about ideas is great. We can talk about what things mean and how we understand them. Like I can understand the idea that a narcissist is someone who's like self-absorbed or whatever. And then as I can go deeper and start to be like, oh, this thing this person is doing is they're ignoring my reality and saying things to make me doubt myself. And they do this consistently. And there's no center to what they're doing. It's coming from a place of manipulation rather than a place of genuineness. That's what that is. Cluster B traits. And then as you go deeper and deeper, you start to realize, how does this relate to the false self and the true self? The true self is essentially the part of you that is doing the organizing, if that makes sense. So maybe your personality type is actually the way that you build your external persona. I'm just theorizing here. I don't know. This is a layer that I haven't gotten to yet. It's really interesting. I think this stuff is really interesting. And if properly understood, like not just thinking, oh, they're self-absorbed, but understanding like, oh, this sort of behavior is a cluster B trait. And that cluster B trait results from bad social feedback or split social feedback that causes your identity to become fractured, and therefore you fracture others' identities because that's how you organize yourself, and you want others to be organized the way you're organized, that's cluster B, or narcissism specifically. Specifically, probably just grandiose narcissism. There are many types of narcissism because narcissism refers to, it's complicated. I don't want to go into too much detail. What I'm trying to say is to get to the point of like what I've been leading up to, typology. Okay, when I first heard about personality types, I think I was probably 16, and I was like, oh, cool. Some people think more, some people feel more, and, some people make decisions more quickly than others. Personality types. Got a little bit older, started to hear just a little bit more, or no, like I've gotten older and I notice more patterns in the relationships that I've had and things. And then you look at your existing knowledge and you sort of run through it in your brain, and you feel that. You feel that knowledge, and you still start to understand it on a deeper gut level. In fact, this is so important. I'm going to turn up the color. Yeah, because we're in a happy land now. SpongeBob. Into a world of color. So you get into this world of color, of brightness. I thought I understood what personality types meant a few years back. And then I ran across a rather controversial figure in, I think, 2017 or 2018. I guess it was late 2018, yeah, because he started in 2018, named C.S. Joseph. And it's rather ironic that I'm talking about cluster B traits. By the way, there is something called compensatory narcissism. So it doesn't mean that there are different types of narcissism. So, for example, social media, a lot of times what we do is we create a false self that we present on screen to others. And that's an issue. And if you really understand personality disorders well, you can make sure that as a YouTuber, you or on your platform or whatever you're doing it from a healthy place that leads to real happiness, and not from a place that leads to, I need another dopamine hit from a like or a heart or whatever. That is a narcissistic type of behavior in terms of the way that it's working internally. It's the same type of thing. And the more you do that, the less of a real self you'll have, or it'd be more hidden, and you don't want to do that. But I'm digressing again. My point is, I want to talk about the fact that I didn't understand typology, and I'm getting more and more down these layers of the onion. As the more I go down these layers, the more I understand what it really means. Yeah. But my question is, how do I most effectively translate that to you? How do I most effectively explain what personality type, what we mean by that, without confusing you and leaving you at the top layers? And that's a very hard thing to do. And I have not figured out how to do that. I guess there's a reason why we make curriculums and programs. I mean, think about it. If you go to C.S. Joseph's channel, he has things organized, at least in his earlier videos, in such a way that it progresses. You learn the basics and you go a little higher and you go a little higher. Main thing I have with him is he doesn't go fundamental enough. He doesn't go way down here. He just kind of starts midway. And I don't know if that's because he doesn't know enough, or he doesn't have good communication skills, or maybe like me, I'm neither of those things. I don't know enough or have good enough communication skills to really get to the root of it. I just know that it's a thing that needs to be done. But if you go through his channel, the way that it's structured and laid out makes it really effective. And that's also why I created a playlist called INTPs Must Watch. It's for those of you who first found out that you're an NTP. And it's kind of, I intentionally, I think, ordered it in such a way that as you watch that in order, you'll understand typology much faster than if you were just kind of ad hoc go through what the algorithm shows you. And I think if you go even faster with it, let me tell you a quick story, and this will kind of wrap up the idea of this video. The layers of an onion concept. I've told this story twice in this video so far in different ways. But when it comes to, say, let's use cluster B disorders as a great example. I think I know something about it, and then I kind of know a little bit about it, and then I know a little bit here and a little bit here. And I kind of ad hoc learn about it through watching YouTube videos, through reading articles on the internet, through reading books about it, and so on and so forth. But the caveat to that is there's only so much context that those books can give, only so much information that those books can give, and all this sorts of stuff. And then it wasn't until recently when I started actually taking programmed courses on cluster B disorders and psychology, and this is part of what college is for, by the way, is it takes you through a planned curriculum. You go through the steps and learn the things you need to get right from the beginning, so that you go from the bottom up. You really understand, you really get what they're talking about, and you intuitively know how to apply it. And when you can actually have an understanding and such that you can be creative and create new knowledge within that field that helps people and creates an upgraded version of understanding. So there's also a problem with it though too, which is that you're taught the wrong things, it can really screw you up. And I've had that experience as well. So you need to maybe look at different sources and compare and think for yourself. That's really important. Most effective people in the world, in my experience, think for themselves, for sure. And so I think, and I hope, I know that I've seen that some of you do coaching, and that's even a level up from doing curriculum-based stuff. Is if you have the right coach, someone who really knows what they're doing, this is key, then they can actually identify your current understanding level, or a teacher, I guess, like a personalized teacher, tutor. They can take you from here to here really fast. So I guess for me personally, if I really want to be useful in this space, and it's also good for me as a teacher to help myself understand it better and to better teach it, because the better that helps you understand it better, basically, to teach people. It organizes it in your brain better. Helping you understand it, I could do that by coaching. So I may experiment with that here soon. If you're interested in because it's like layers of an onion, it's more like layers of a sliced onion. So I may know down to the core in this one spot, but you may know down to here, where I only know down to here in this other part of the onion. So don't think that knowledge is all encompassing. It's more specific, especially for an INTP. INFPs may actually have better ability, and INFJs even, those people have a better ability to encompass the onion. I don't know. I'm still learning just like the rest of you, and just a little bit further in some areas, and that's how it works. So yeah, coaching. Then the other thing is I'm considering maybe trying to organize and create a program that teaches you a specific thing, and it's an actual curriculum that you run through, so that you can learn it all really fast, within a few days, as opposed to learning it over the course of months or years even. So some topics, let me just kind of list a few topics offhand that maybe I could do a course on. And if you have watched this part of the video, then I trust your opinion on this. I was thinking perhaps a course, and if you have other ideas, I'm open, a course on how the functions actually work, or a course on how to apply personality theory in your everyday life, a course on how to become your true self, and how that all works with the different parts and the different personality systems and how to integrate all that. I could do a course on how to apply it specifically to relationships, a compatibility course. I know a lot about that. Yeah, that's basically the gist of it. Knowledge is like layers of an onion. To recap this video, knowledge is like layers of an onion. You think you know something, but you really don't. So you got to be humble about it and recognize that others often know more than you, at a specific thing at the very least, even if you know more. Or maybe someone intellectually understands way more than you, but you actually practically understand it in a real way much more deeply than that person does. So that's the thing. And whether it's narcissism or how cluster B works, or how all these psychological concepts, or the fact that general psychology is a thing more so than just this little area of typology, in whatever field, anything you want to study. I do sound stuff, as you can see in the background. I'm an audio engineer, and by the microphone that I selected very carefully for maximum sound quality. Everything is like this. And I think learning in courses and in books are okay, but learning in courses and directly by a tutor or a mentor are the best ways to learn. If you really, really want to learn and you're not just trying to dilly-dally on the internet. Yeah, so let me know if you'd be interested. If I were to try to start coaching, I'd probably do it as a trial at first, so it's no charge. and then just, kind of test the waters. So yeah, and then course ideas as I listed, or any ideas you may have. So yeah, peace, guys. And I'm going to get back to what I was doing before I clicked play.